Today on Blueprint, I'm going to show you the best fireball army and it's going to be with the furnace. Now let's dive into this video and see how you can use this strategy. So this is the army right here, and originally the army is from COC, so big shout out to him. And I would say it's a very thoughtful army in general when it comes to furnace attacks. He has managed to kind of move around with it a few times, and the way he has this army in general, it's very good because it supports the warden a lot better than what the fireball, rocket loons, and I would say in general supports the warden, as warden is usually just free by himself. But with the furnace you can actually cover him by tanking him, sometimes supporting him with the damage output, and in general that's basically it. Now we're gonna have two wall breakers in this army which are for your king and queen, basically sui dive, just diving into a compartment or two compartments of the base. We got the furnaces which usually you can use behind the warden, you can use in the corners, you can use for cleanup. It's a very good troop in general. 4 rocket balloons is going to be for your flame flinger. You can take down mortars, you can also take down expos, so you can have these 4 rocket loon taking down a mortar and then having a flame flinger on one of the sides, which looks a lot easier for you. For the pets, obviously we have the phoenix with the royal champion. It's good to have her because obviously with the I would say, what do you call it, the fox, it's also possible, but the phoenix, I believe something that is very good for it is that you can actually dive the RC into heavy damage, something that for example you missed with your warden, like a town hall area, like a rage tower area. You can pop the RC ability, let her fully go into that heavy area, have a little bit of the RC walk and then crush that base. For the other pets, obviously you can see how we got the unicorn on the queen, we got the frosty with the king, and the warden we're gonna have the sneezy. You need to watch out if you haven't done warden walks, because typically the sneezy, it's sometimes dragging Teslas without you actually needing to go into a certain area. So watch out, be patient. You can use the frost block spell or the ice block spell and freeze the warden and have nicer invisibility drops. A bit more patience with the earthquake and everything to crush bases. Let's move on to the attacks and see how this strategy is being done onto these bases. Now on the first base, obviously we have a core town hall with the double poison, and typically what you want to do in general with these bases is you want to have a good flame flinger obviously, but one thing you need to be sure of is that you never really want to have the flame flinger in the same area where you're doing the warden charge. So something that we used to do back then when you had the warden tanking for an expo or a mortar and the flame flinger would be right next to him. No, we have a different approach with the warden, completely opposite side of the flame flinger if you can. You can obviously have them as close as possible, but again it wouldn't be likely and it wouldn't be really suggested. So now the flame flinger with some archers and a furnace can really clear the right side, warden and a few of these furnaces can clear the left. What I really want to do with the fireball is just typically just drop it on the most damaged part of the base, which in my case I believe it's going to be around this area where there is poison spell, a tower, there is monolith, there is the expos, enemy heroes, really good amount of value. So ice block the warden and then go with the invisibilities and pop the warden ability. I probably could have done a better fireball even, but honestly the strategy is really powerful. They don't necessarily need to have the most insane value out of fireball. Now this area was getting so much damage and my warden was staying behind, so I'm going with another ice block spell. I could have done with an invis, but I rather keep the invis for the sui because it makes more sense in a way that you can't really use the ice block for the sui that much unless you are really good with the army. So now the warden is having a time of his life clearing stuff. Sometimes you may forget you have to add some furnace with him, so right where he's standing just add a few furnace with your king and queen. You can see how the flame flinger is managed to get a nice funnel, so now the sui just simply goes for the town hall. Now with the king and queen you also want to have it further away from the warden, so you keep the warden separated from these two main parts of the base. Same goes with the RC, but the RC drop is a bit different depending on the bases. Obviously you can drop the RC even with the warden, you can let them go together after a long period of time, but just make sure the warden stays alive because he can get quite a lot of value by himself. Sometimes you're gonna see in this video actually my warden dies, so one thing that it happens is that you just shouldn't really be worried. You shouldn't really panic. Let the warden die, it's okay. Try to grab the healers away from where they're standing, most likely inside damage, so you can drop the RC for that, or drop your king and queen for that, so the healers get dragged. That's something you can do when the warden dies in the middle of the attack. Now on to the next base, we have this double invisibility base, and one thing that a lot of people actually ask is like, how do you hit this base without a giant arrow or invis and the skeleton spell combination? This way it's very easy with those ice block spell, guys, because it's honestly one of the easiest things you can do. When you activate the invis, you drop the ice block spell to whatever activated the invisibility, so they don't move away, and by that time they will go back to the invisibility tower area. So now warden with a few of these furnaces on the lower side. As you saw, we used some rocketloons for the flame flinger on the top side to get some value. These furnaces on the lower side will tank really nicely. I'm dropping a skeleton spell here just in case, you know, the single inferno targets the warden, and I really want to have that invisibility spell, just maybe one of it, as you can see here, and try to pop a nice juicy warden fireball into this entire area. Now whenever you pop a fireball, obviously depending on the amount of storages and the trash buildings that your warden is targeting, you don't have to use the ice block, just like this attack. But on the last attack, whereas sometimes there may be no trash buildings, so there is only defenses. That means if you make them invisible and try to pop the warden ability, the fireball, your warden will move in a weird angle or a direction, whereas he might get into so much damage. That's why the ice block spell is really good for him in those scenarios. But otherwise, just like this one, you don't necessarily have to use it every time. So now a headhunter for the king and queen with a few furnaces on the left. You can see how the flame flinger is doing absolutely amazing. This is where the warden will start to activate the invisibility tower, so once it's activated, you can pop the ice block spell. The moment you see the spell drops up, you can pop the ice block. The timing of them is very good. Now the king died, but he managed to open a few compartments for us, and now with a few more furnace on the right side, just make sure the warden stays alive, guys. If your warden dies at this part, it's crazy. Like, it can happen to anyone, but just make sure he's alive. With invisibilities, cover him with the ice block spell. Whenever the invisibility towers goes off, cover him. It's gonna be nice. Now I tried to do some nice juicy wall breakers for the queen, and as you can see, obviously the RC probably could have gotten swag, but personally I don't like to swag, so I like to get through the attack as quick as possible because I want to get into the next attack. So yeah, the RC is just doing absolutely amazing with a lot of these fire mites. We can even get an entire 40% of this base right now with the amount of heroes and spells and fire mites we have. Really crushing hits, I would say, and let's move on to the next attack. So up next we have a hook tower, which, yes, you typically of course don't want to have the warden anywhere really close to him, unless you're having a nice like skeleton spell. You're too confident with your furnace drops behind the warden that can really tank nicely. I really wouldn't suggest it. It's something that is just deadly, man. So be further away from that like hook tower. We're gonna warden walk the complete opposite side, nearly complete opposite side of it. So this warden walk is going to be mainly for around the town hall area where the fire spitter is. That way we can get a good fireball value. Just make sure when you drop the warden in front of a ricochet cannon and an expo, you have him covered. This means either with furnaces, or you can maybe kind of make sure you have some invisibility in the pocket. Just have some attention to him, especially if he's like next to a hero even. Make sure if this hero is targeting the warden, quickly drop that headhunter. It's good to drop in invisibility, and I know I mentioned like you can, you know, keep the headhunter for the king, but usually if this happens, you really want to have that quick headhunter instead of an entire spell. So now you can see how this warden is only having the option of defenses. That's when I told you you can go with the ice block spell, because if you go with the invisibility, the warden will move to the core and things will get very bad. So with this ability, I'm even going with the invisibility right after, just to keep him under no pressure. This way your warden can move really well throughout the right side. One thing I actually forgot fully was the hook tower. Meanwhile, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna use a siege barracks on this one because I couldn't really get a good flame flinger value. The expos and the mortars were just so weird, and the heroes. The warden gets pulled, and I tried to go with the ice block so I can get the time to go with like a, you know, invis spell or something, but it just didn't work. This is where sometimes the warden dies. So instead we're gonna have DRC, whereas the area of his coverage would be covered by using DRC on this side. You can use rage, you can use poison, you can use invisibility spells. Just cover DRC and make sure like she's the one doing whatever the warden couldn't. This is what I tell you, like it's a quick decision making. If your healers get pulled one by one by the time you are thinking about what to do, it's gonna be bad. So the moment the warden dies, if you already deployed the king and queen, drop the RC on a very further away point of where he died, but in the near same area. So what it does, it drops the healers to her, like drags them. And now with this amount of furnaces and heroes and healers, you can hit crushing attacks. Obviously, it was something that it can happen to anyone with the hook tower. But let's move on to the next hit. So up to the next hit, we have an invisibility core and a rage core compartment. 4 expos obviously, so Flame Flinger is going to be a bit more tougher. You can get value still, but it's not going to be the biggest value of your life. It's going to be something that you shouldn't really be greedy about. So what I want to do is to pop a nice warden ability into kind of a near same area of where the sweeper and the multi inferno is, so we can get good value. That's basically the whole point of this entire fireball entry. But again, it's another hook tower. Now I know I told you about the flame flinger well, being a bit further away from the warden, but on this base I really couldn't find the place to put him, and that's the reason why I tell you sometimes some things are never like perfect. You don't have to be like, okay, I can only drop the furnace the opposite side, and if I don't, it will not be a triple. No, it's not like that. You can do it, but it should be in your last option. Now with this fireball, as you can see, it's only going to be again defenses going into like when we're gonna pop the warden. So it's good to have the frost ice block spell, and that way you can have a very better fireball with a more control. But one thing that is a bit bad about this is that once you do the invisibility spells, the flame flinger will actually walk forward into the ground expo. Kind of crazy, I know. Now with the king going down, with the storage going down, I'm gonna ice block the warden. This is the bad part with the invisibility. The flame flinger will go very weird now. With the fireball, unfortunately the warden went a lot to the left. Now this is where I again forgot about the hook tower. Warden getting dragged, and this is what I mean. Right after you pop the fireball, your warden can die, but this time I haven't dropped the king and queen. So now we're gonna have king and queen to drag the healers away from that hook tower and the damage basically. But unfortunately town hall is just doing some shots to us. It's okay, it is what it is. Some nice furnaces on the opposite side of your king and queen to just do a little bit of the funnel, nothing too crazy. Now you can control the heroes by wall breaking them into different layers, something that is very simple. You can also use that one rage with the queen and the king to get through the base, get the healers to heal them faster. 1 or 2 ROCKETLOONs, they can go on top of these and just tank a bit more for your healers. The moment the king is in a good area, you can pop the earthquake boots, and now the king actually went with the hook tower. So I was like, you know what, maybe it would be better to keep the king ability and pop it on top of the hook tower. Something you can adapt. It's all about adaptation, guys. Something that is like you don't plan on happening, but you are ready for it to happen. A very good strategy, a very interesting strategy. Again, big shout out to COC for making this army. It's a very fun army in my opinion. If you want to get very good results, you can use it. Do some practice and obviously you will become a very good player with it. Nice back-end ice block. As I told you, the ice block is mostly for the warden, so try not to use it with the Sui. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We will see you soon on the next one. Take care and peace.